My MOM threw me out like trash. I came back to destroy their pride. The night my mother told me to leave, she didn't even look up from her phone. No tears. No hesitation. Just 3 words that hit me like a closed fist to the chest. Just go, Mia. I was 22 years old. I had 2 bags of clothes, $43 in my bank account, and it was raining outside. Real rain. The kind that soaks through your jacket in seconds and turns the world into a blur. I stood in the doorway for a long moment. Long enough to see if she would change her mind. Long enough to give her every chance. She didn't look up. My little sister, Cassidy, was sitting on the couch behind her. She was watching me with wide eyes. She didn't say a word. She just watched, like I was a stranger being removed from a building she owned. I picked up my bags. I walked out. And the door clicked shut behind me like a period at the end of a sentence. Clean, final, done. That night, I slept on my friend Danny's floor with a towel as a blanket. I stared at the ceiling and I thought, this is my life now. This is where they've left me. But here's the thing no one tells you about rock bottom. It has the best foundation for building. 3 years later, I walked back into that family. Not because I needed them.
Because they needed me.
And what I said to my mother that day, in front of everyone she cared about impressing. Before I tell you what happened next, you need to understand where this all started. I was never the chosen one. I know that sounds dramatic. But if you grew up in a house where love was a limited resource, where affection was rationed like the last piece of food on a plate, then you already know exactly what I mean. My mother's name is Linda. She had 2 daughters. Me, Mia, the older one, and Cassidy, who came 3 years after me. From the very first memory I can pull up clearly, the difference was visible. Not hidden. Not subtle. Visible. Cassidy had curly blonde hair and big green eyes, and she looked exactly like my mother's side of the family. I had dark hair, tan skin, and my father's sharp jaw. My father, who left when I was 4. My father, whose name my mother spat out like something that tasted bitter. I think that's where it started. Every time she looked at me, I think she saw him. And she never forgave either of us for that. Cassidy got the new backpack every September. I got hers from the year before. Cassidy got dance lessons on Saturdays. I got told we couldn't afford it. Cassidy's school plays were attended, photographed, turned into printed photos that sat on the mantle. I had a role in my 7th grade play, a real speaking role, and my mother said she had a headache and stayed home. I came home that night so proud. I'd remembered every single line. I'd gotten a little round of applause. She was asleep on the couch when I walked in. I went to my room, and I sat on the edge of my bed, and I thought, almost enough to matter. But not quite. That phrase, almost enough, it became the background noise of my childhood. Almost enough to be included. Almost enough to be celebrated. Almost enough to be loved the same. But always just not quite. My Aunt Sandra, my father's sister, who somehow stayed in our lives despite my mother's coldness toward her, was the one who noticed. She was the one who showed up to that school play. She was sitting in the 3rd row with a small bouquet of yellow flowers she bought from a gas station, and she clapped so loud I could hear her above everyone else. After the show, she hugged me and said, "You were the best one up there, Mia. You hear me? The best one." I held on to that for years, like a life raft in deep water, because at home, the current was always trying to pull me under. There was one afternoon, I was maybe 15, when Cassidy broke my mother's favorite ceramic dish. A blue one with painted flowers. It had been their grandmother's, and my mother treasured it. I watched Cassidy drop it. I watched it shatter. I watched my mother rush in from the other room. And I watched Cassidy point at me. "Mia bumped into me," she said.
Calm. Smooth.
Like she'd rehearsed it. My mother turned to me with that look, the one that didn't even ask questions. The one that had already decided. "Why are you always so careless?" she said. I tried to speak. She held up her hand. "Don't. Just go clean it up." I cleaned up the dish. Cassidy watched me from the doorway, and there was something in her eyes that wasn't guilt. It was satisfaction. I was 15 and I already understood. I was not protected in this house. I was tolerated. Have you ever felt that? Like you were present in your own family but never truly included? Like you lived in the same house but existed in a completely different world? That was my childhood. That was every birthday, every Christmas, every quiet Tuesday night at the dinner table. I was there. I was just not chosen. By the time I was 22, I had learned to survive on scraps of affection. I still lived at home. Stupid, looking back. But rent in our city was brutal, and I was working 2 part-time jobs while trying to finish my business degree online. I paid rent to my mother every month, $300 cash first of the month. I bought my own groceries. I cooked my own food. Cassidy was 19, living at home, working maybe 15 hours a week at a boutique, contributing nothing financially, and being treated like a queen. I told myself it was fine. I told myself things would change when I graduated, when I got a real job, when I proved myself enough. I should have known better. That spring, my mother started planning Cassidy's 20th birthday party. Not just a gathering, a party. A proper event. She rented out the back room of a local Italian restaurant, invited 40 people, ordered a custom cake, bought Cassidy a bracelet from a jeweler downtown. I remember sitting in the kitchen the morning she was making the invitation list, and I watched her write names down with such focus and love. Her handwriting was neat and careful, like every name mattered. I turned 22 that March. My mother had said happy birthday at breakfast. That was it. No cake. No dinner out. Not even a card. I told myself that was fine too. But this party, this production for Cassidy, it stirred something in me. Not jealousy, exactly. More like grief. Like watching proof of something you tried to deny for years. Still, I helped, because that's what I did. I helped set up the restaurant the morning of the party. I carried boxes, I arranged centerpieces, I made sure the cake was refrigerated properly. My mother moved around me giving instructions, like I was hired staff. Move that to the left. No, the other left. Mia, can you not see it's crooked? I moved it. I smiled. I swallowed everything. Danny, my best friend, who had known me since middle school, had warned me that morning. She called while I was loading the car. You don't have to do this, you know, she said. It's fine, I said.
Mia.
Her voice was quiet but firm. You are allowed to say no to people who don't love you back. I didn't know how to say that I was hoping today would be different. That somewhere inside me, the girl who waited for her mother to show up to the school play was still hoping. I should have listened to Danny. That day was the beginning of the end. The party started at 7. By 8, the room was full. Relatives I hadn't seen in years. Family friends, Cassidy's friends in matching outfits, my mother in a new dress I'd never seen before. I was wearing the one nice blouse I owned. Navy blue, a little wrinkled. I hadn't known to buy something new. My Aunt Sandra was there. She caught my eye across the room and gave me a small, knowing smile. She was the only one who looked at me like I was supposed to be there. Around 8:30, my mother stood up to give a toast. She had a glass of wine, and that radiant smile she only wore in public. The one that made people think she was warm and generous and good. She talked about Cassidy's childhood. She talked about her dreams and her laugh and her kindness. She talked about how proud she was. And then she said something. She said, Cassidy has always been my greatest joy. From the moment she was born, she was the light of this family. The room applauded. I was sitting at a table near the back. Someone at my table, an old family friend named Carol, turned to me with a sympathetic smile and patted my hand. Like she knew, like everyone in that room quietly knew, the light of this family, not her daughters.
Just one of them.
I sat very still. I kept my face neutral. I took a slow breath. This wasn't a surprise. It was confirmation. Later, after the cake, after the gifts, I went to the bathroom. I stood at the sink and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I had this strange, clarifying moment. Like something in my chest just unlocked. I had been spending years, my entire life, trying to earn a seat at a table that was never built with me in mind. And the worst part? When I came out of the bathroom, I overheard my mother talking to her sister in the hallway. She didn't see me. Honestly, she was saying, her voice low but not low enough. I don't even know why Mia came. She always makes things uncomfortable. Her sister murmured something. She's just so much like her father, my mother said. Everything about her. And she said it like it was the worst possible thing a person could be. I stood in that hallway for 3 seconds. Then I walked back into the party, picked up my purse, and said goodbye to my Aunt Sandra. Go home, sweetheart, Sandra said softly. She squeezed my hand. I'll call you tomorrow. I drove home. I went to sleep. And 2 days later, my mother came to my room and told me it was time for me to start my own life. That I was holding myself back by staying here. That I should find somewhere else to live by the end of the month. End of the month was 18 days away. She delivered this news while looking at her phone. And she never looked up once. I didn't cry right away. I sat on my bed after she left, and I looked around my room, the small, cream-colored room I'd lived in since I was 4 years old, and I felt something I didn't expect. Relief. Not pain first. Relief first. Like a part of me had been waiting for this moment. Like the other shoe had finally dropped, and now I didn't have to wait anymore. I called Danny. She answered on the second ring. She kicked me out, I said. Silence. Then, I'm coming to get you. While I waited, I packed. And while I packed, I thought clearly for the first time in years. I went through every memory I'd been carrying, all the birthday parties I'd helped plan for other people, all the dinners I'd cooked that were eaten without thanks, all the money I'd handed over while Cassidy paid nothing. I found the receipts. Literally, I had kept records out of habit, a habit I developed because some quiet part of me always felt the need to document my own existence in that house. 3 years of rent payments, monthly grocery contributions, utility bills I'd split, repairs I'd paid for, thousands of dollars, while Cassidy, in 3 years, had contributed exactly 0. I found something else too, a text thread on my old tablet, accidentally left logged into my mother's account. Months old. A conversation between my mother and her friend Beverly. Beverly, is Mia still there? When is she moving out? My mother. I keep hoping she'll leave on her own, lol. She just doesn't get hints. Beverly, you're too nice. My mother. Huh. She's useful to have around at least. Helps with bills. Useful. That word sat in the center of my chest like a stone. Not loved. Not wanted. Useful. That was what I had been to her. A financial convenience she tolerated because I paid on time. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. Something quiet and permanent. I stopped being the girl who waited to be chosen. I became someone else entirely. Danny helped me move into her apartment that night. Her place was small, 1 bedroom, a kitchen that barely fit 2 people, a bathroom with a shower head that sprayed sideways. She gave me her couch and 3 spare blankets and a key to her front door. I sat on that couch at midnight, and I made a list. Not a venting list. Not a list of grievances. A plan. I wrote down everything I had. My online degree almost finished, 6 weeks from completion. My 2 part-time jobs. My $43. My skills. Organizing, managing, handling problems without falling apart. Then I wrote down what I needed. Stability, income, distance,
Time.
and at the bottom of the page, I wrote 1 sentence. I am not going to be someone they can throw away and forget. Not revenge.
Not yet.
That came later, and not in the way you might think. What I decided that night was simpler and harder than revenge. I decided to succeed. Fully, publicly, undeniably. I decided that the best response to being treated like trash was to become something they couldn't ignore. Danny read my list over my shoulder and said, "Okay, so what's first?" "Finish my degree," I said. "Then what?" "Get a real job." Then, I looked at her. "Then I come back." She nodded like she already knew this story had a good ending, like she believed it before I did. That's what a real supporter looks like.
She didn't fix it for me.
She just stood beside me while I fixed it myself. The next 6 weeks were the hardest of my life, and the most productive. I finished my degree working from Danny's kitchen table at 5 in the morning before my shift started. I submitted my final project on a Tuesday night, sitting in the glow of a laptop screen with a cold cup of tea beside me, and when I hit submit, I didn't celebrate. I just moved to the next thing. I updated my resume. I applied to 47 positions in 6 weeks. I got 3 callbacks, 2 rejections, 1 offer. A junior operations coordinator role at a mid-sized logistics company. The salary was not impressive, but it was a start. A real start, benefits, a desk, a direct manager who on my first day looked at my application materials and said, "You're overqualified for this level. Give it 6 months." I gave it 4. In 4 months, I had reorganized 2 internal processes, identified a vendor billing error that had been costing the company money for 18 months, and trained 2 newer hires. My manager, a no-nonsense woman named Priya, called me into her office and offered me a promotion. "You don't have to wait 6 months," she said. "You've already done the work." I thought about my mother's face the night she told me I was holding myself back. I thanked Priya and accepted the promotion with a very steady voice. Meanwhile, I saved every spare dollar. I lived small, packed lunches, library books instead of streaming subscriptions, secondhand everything. Danny refused to charge me rent for the first 3 months, and I will never stop being grateful for that. By month 8, I had enough for a deposit on a studio apartment. The day I moved in, I stood in the center of the empty room, bare walls, clean floors, a window that faced the courtyard, and I cried. Not from sadness. From the feeling of standing in a space that was entirely, completely mine. No one could tell me to leave here. No one could make me feel like a guest. This was my name on the lease, my key in the lock, my choice. I bought a small plant for the windowsill. I named her Sandra after my aunt. I took a photo and sent it to Danny and to my Aunt Sandra with no caption. They both called me within minutes. That night, eating takeout on the floor because I didn't have a table yet, I felt something I hadn't felt in years.
Whole.
The call came 11 months after the night she told me to leave. My mother called on a Sunday morning. I saw her name on my screen, and I felt nothing dramatic, no anxiety spike, no dread. Just a kind of calm curiosity. I answered.
Mia.
Her voice was different.
Softer.
Or performing softness. I couldn't tell anymore. "How are you?" "Fine," I said. "What's up?" There was a pause. Then she told me. My grandmother, her mother, had passed away 2 weeks earlier. I already knew this. Sandra had told me, and I had sent flowers. What I didn't know was what came next. Grandma had left a will. And in the will, she had divided her estate, not a massive sum, but meaningful, between her daughters and her grandchildren. All grandchildren equally, including me. My mother needed me to sign some paperwork, and there was going to be a family gathering, the reading of the will, handled by a family lawyer, at my grandmother's house that weekend. She wanted me to come. I already knew the whole story before she finished. Sandra had quietly filled me in on everything, including the fact that my mother had spent the previous 2 weeks telling relatives that I had disconnected from the family and didn't care about Grandma. That she'd been painting a picture of me as the absent, ungrateful daughter who had chosen to disappear. She had been rewriting the story.
So I came that Saturday.
The house was full of relatives. Aunts, uncles, cousins. People who had gotten one side of the story. I could feel the weight of their assumptions when I walked in. The sideways looks, the whispered exchanges, the slight stiffening of posture. Cassidy stood near the kitchen with her arms crossed, watching me with flat eyes. My mother came forward with that practiced smile. "Mia," she said warmly for the audience. "So glad you made it." I looked at her steadily. "Of course," I said. Grandma mattered to me. The room was quiet for a moment. Then my mother said, tilting her head with that sweet poison tone she used when she wanted to make something land publicly, "We weren't sure you'd come. You've been so busy lately, building your little life." And there it was. Diminishment wrapped in a smile. Little life. I took a breath. I kept my voice completely even. "It's not that little, actually," I said. "But thank you for noticing." Someone nearby stifled a sound. Later, when the lawyer had finished and documents were being signed, my mother pulled me aside. "I hope there are no hard feelings," she said. "About before. You needed to grow up. I was helping you." I looked at her for a long moment. "You texted your friend Beverly that I was useful," I said quietly. "That's why you kept me around." Her face shifted. You threw me out with 18 days' notice after a lifetime of making me feel like I was less than my sister. I know that. You know that. Everyone in this room, on some level, knows that. I kept my voice low and calm, not angry.
Clear.
I'm not here today because I need anything from you, I said. I'm here because my grandmother loved me and I loved her, and I'm not going to let you erase that. She opened her mouth. I don't need an apology, I said before she could speak. I'm past needing things from you. And then I walked back to the table, signed my paperwork, kissed my Aunt Sandra on the cheek, and said my goodbyes. At the door, Cassidy stopped me. You think you're so much better than us now, she said. I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt something unexpected. Not anger.
Pity.
No, I said. I just know what I'm worth. That's different. And I walked out into the clean afternoon air. Here's the thing about real revenge. It's quieter than people expect. It doesn't look like a dramatic scene or a shouting match. It doesn't look like burning something down. It looks like not needing them anymore. In the months that followed, I watched what happened when I stopped being available. My mother called 3 more times that year. Each time, there was a practical need attached, a form she needed help with, a question about something financial, a family event she wanted me to attend to keep up appearances. Each time, I was polite. I helped where I could from a distance. And each time, I felt less. Not less pain. Less pull. The hook they'd kept in me for 22 years was slowly, steadily dissolving. The real consequence came through something I never planned. I had started a small side project, nothing grand, just an Instagram account where I wrote honestly about growing up in a home where you felt invisible. Short posts. Real language. No performance. Within 8 months, it had 40,000 followers. People wrote to me every day.
This is my story.
This is exactly what I felt. How did you know? I didn't plan for it to reach my hometown, but it did. My mother's friends saw it.
Her sister saw it.
People who had been at that birthday party, who had heard her toast about Cassidy being the light of the family, they read my words and they recognized the shape of the story. My mother called me on a Wednesday night. Furious. You're airing our private business on the internet, she said. I'm sharing my experience, I said. I haven't used anyone's name. Everyone knows, she said. Her voice was shaking. Then maybe, I said calmly, they know because it's true. She hung up. What had taken from me, my confidence, my sense of worth, years of energy spent trying to be chosen, could never be fully returned. That's the honest truth. There is no revenge that gives you back your childhood. There is no confrontation that undoes what was done. But watching her face the version of the story she had always pretended didn't exist, that was close enough. 2 years later, my life looks like something I couldn't have imagined on that rainy night with 2 bags and $43. I have my studio apartment, which I've slowly turned into a home. There's a real dining table now. A bookshelf that's too full. A kitchen where I cook real meals, not because I have to, but because I want to. Sandra's namesake plant has grown so big, I've had to repot her twice. My job became a career. Priya became a mentor, and eventually a friend. I was promoted again last spring. I lead a team of 6 now, and I am the kind of manager who remembers birthdays and says good work out loud, and means it. My social media project became something real too. I started writing longer pieces, then a newsletter, then a small online course for people who grew up in homes where they were never the chosen one. Helping them recognize their own worth, rebuild their confidence, build the internal structures that their family never gave them. The response has been overwhelming. Not in a fame way, in a recognition way, in the way that makes you feel less alone in the world. Danny and I still talk every day. She got engaged last year, and I cried at the proposal dinner because I was so genuinely happy for her. She asked me to be her maid of honor, and I said yes before she finished the sentence. My Aunt Sandra and I have Sunday dinners twice a month. She brings her famous chicken stew and I bring the bread, and we sit at my little dining table and we talk about everything. About my grandmother, about my father. She tells me good things about him, things I was never told, about what she sees for my future. She is my family.
She has always been my family.
She was just never given the title. As for my mother and Cassidy, I am not estranged exactly. But I am honest now. The relationship exists at a distance I chose. I don't attend every event. I don't perform closeness I don't feel. I respond to messages when I want to, and I don't when I don't. And the strange thing is, from that distance, things are clearer,
Calmer.
even my mother, seen from far enough away, becomes simply a person who is damaged and passed damage on. Not a villain in a story. Just a woman who never learned how to love evenly and whose daughter refused to let that be the end of a story. I don't carry hate for her. I carry clarity. And clarity, I have found, is much lighter. Have you ever discovered that the hardest thing isn't walking away from the people who hurt you? It's accepting that you were worthy of better all along, and that their inability to see it was their failure, not yours? That's the realization that changes everything. If you're watching this and you see yourself in my story, if you know what it feels like to be the one who is almost enough, the one who is useful but not beloved, the one who helped set up the party they weren't really invited to, I want you to hear this. What was done to you was not a reflection of your value. It was a reflection of their limits. You did not fail to earn love. They failed to give it. And I know how hard that is to hold. Because if it's their failure and not yours, it means there's nothing you could have done differently. It means all those years of trying harder, being better, staying quieter, none of it would have changed things. And that grief is enormous. But on the other side of that grief is something extraordinary. Freedom. The freedom to stop performing for an audience that was never going to give you a standing ovation. The freedom to leave a room that was built too small for you. The freedom to build something of your own, a life, a home, a sense of self, that doesn't require anyone's approval to be real. Your comeback doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be public. It can be as quiet as a studio apartment that's finally yours, a plant on a windowsill, a Sunday dinner with someone who loves you without conditions. Success is the most dignified response to being underestimated. Silence, chosen silence, the silence of someone who no longer needs to prove anything, is the most powerful thing you can carry into a room. And walking away from people who never saw you? That's not losing. That's choosing yourself, maybe for the first time. I was thrown away like I didn't matter. I came back as proof that I always did. Remember this. Family is not who you're born to. It's who shows up. It's who stays. It's who chooses you. Not because of blood or obligation or convenience, but because of love. Find those people. Be that person. And never, ever let someone else's inability to see your worth write the ending of your story.